with Joel CRE podcast for an insightful conversation on real estate, entrepreneurship, family, and legacy. As co-founder of Jake and Gino and founder of Barbaro 360, Gino has helped thousands of investors navigate the multifamily space while building a portfolio spanning thousands of apartment units. In this follow-up interview, we go beyond real estate to discuss the lessons learned from building businesses, raising a family, creating generational wealth, and leading with purpose. We also explore today's multifamily market, emerging opportunities for investors, and why success is about more than just financial returns. Don't miss this powerful conversation with one of the most respected voices in multifamily investing and personal development. Gino Barbaro returns to Mornings with Joel CRE podcast for an insightful conversation on real estate, entrepreneurship, family, and legacy. As co-founder of Jake and Gino and founder of Barbaro 360, Gino has helped thousands of investors navigate the multifamily space while building a portfolio spanning thousands of apartment units. In this follow-up interview, we go beyond real estate to discuss the lessons learned from building businesses, raising a family, creating generational wealth, and leading with purpose. We also explore today's multifamily market, emerging opportunities for investors, and why success is about more than just financial returns. Don't miss this powerful conversation with one of the most respected voices in multifamily investing and personal development. Gino Barbaro returns to Mornings with Joel CRE podcast for an insightful conversation on real estate, entrepreneurship, family, and legacy. As co-founder of Jake and Gino and founder of Barbaro 360, Gino has helped thousands of investors navigate the multifamily space while building a portfolio spanning thousands of apartment units. In this follow-up interview, we go beyond real estate to discuss the lessons learned from building businesses, raising a family, creating generational wealth, and leading with purpose. We also explore today's multifamily market, emerging opportunities for investors, and why success is about more than just financial returns. Don't miss this powerful conversation with one of the most respected voices in multifamily investing and personal development.
Step into the future with EcoCrypt, a platform unifying decentralized finance with real-world utility, where value flows freely. From gaming achievements to real-world assets, everything can be tokenized, fractional, and accessible in one trusted ecosystem. For gamers, investors, and global communities, EcoCrypt is breaking down barriers and democratizing finance. Join the revolution. Visit ecocryptusa.com today.
Gino Barbaro returns to Mornings with Joel CRE podcast for an insightful conversation on real estate, entrepreneurship, family, and legacy. As co-founder of Jake and Gino and founder of Barbaro 360, Gino has helped thousands of investors navigate the multifamily space while building a portfolio spanning thousands of apartment units. In this follow-up interview, we go beyond real estate to discuss the lessons learned from building businesses, raising a family, creating generational wealth, and leading with purpose. We also explore today's multifamily market, emerging opportunities for investors, and why success is about more than just financial returns. Don't miss this powerful conversation with one of the most respected voices in multifamily investing and personal development. Gino Barbaro returns to Mornings with Joel CRE podcast for an insightful conversation on real estate, entrepreneurship, family, and legacy. As co-founder of Jake and Gino and founder of Barbaro 360, Gino has helped thousands of investors navigate the multifamily space while building a portfolio spanning thousands of apartment units. In this follow-up interview, we go beyond real estate to discuss the lessons learned from building businesses, raising a family, creating generational wealth, and leading with purpose. We also explore today's multifamily market, emerging opportunities for investors, and why success is about more than just financial returns. Don't miss this powerful conversation with one of the most respected voices in multifamily investing and personal development. Gino Barbaro returns to Mornings with Joel CRE podcast for an insightful conversation on real estate, entrepreneurship, family, and legacy. As co-founder of Jake and Gino and founder of Barbaro 360, Gino has helped thousands of investors navigate the multifamily space while building a portfolio spanning thousands of apartment units. In this follow-up interview, we go beyond real estate to discuss the lessons learned from building businesses, raising a family, creating generational wealth, and leading with purpose.
Hello, welcome as always to the Mornings with Joel CRE podcast. We're excited to have you with us today. And we have a return guest today, Gino Barbaro, who's with us today. And he's, you might remember, a very, very interesting background. Went from flipping pizzas to owning a ton of commercial real estate and multifamily assets. And Gino, it's always good to have you back. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. The flipping pizzas will always be part of my life, but thank God I'm not flipping them anymore, Joel. I'm so happy.
I hear you. I hear you. Old Jersey guy, right? If I remember correctly.
New York, New Jersey. To me, it's the same thing, to be honest with you. You're from the Northeast, it's all the
Yeah,
same thing up there.
all the
Yeah.
same. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, good to have you. So,
Thank you.
so how's life been, man? I know, we were talking just a little bit off camera here that Uh, obviously the commercial real estate industry it just feels like what's going on. I've mentioned that to a few people in the multifamily industry specifically. We keep hearing about this cliff where all these properties are going to have to reset and everything else. What's your take on what's going on? I mean, you've been active in the market for a few years now, so where's your head at? What are you seeing?
I've been through a couple of market cycles, so I'm fortunate that we didn't do any bridge debt in this last turnaround. And
Hmm.
I always say that if you haven't lost money in real estate, means you haven't been in real estate. I have never met an investor. I might have told you this, other than my business partner Jake Stenziano, who has
Hmm.
not lost money. And the reason why he hasn't lost money is I'm the one who lost all the money before we partnered up. So I brought all my bumps and bruises. But I told Jake, I said, when we get on, Jake, and we start buying deals, my mantra is no deal is better than a bad deal. And that sounds wonderful and that sounds amazing. But it can be hard when you're seeing people close deals around you. You're like, how did they pay that price? Like, what's going, am I doing something wrong here? And
Hmm.
it takes a lot of discipline. It takes
Yeah.
a lot of experience. It takes some wisdom. Sometimes you're asking God, what's going on here? I mean, like, I don't see these deals. And you just have to step back and say, all right, this is my thesis. This is how I'm making money. I have a buy box. I know
Hmm.
how to exit these deals. I have to really execute on what I think is going to make sense to me. That can be very difficult. So in 21 and 22, as you alluded to,
Hmm.
things were great. Money was cheap. It was euphoric. When
Yeah.
people should be selling, everyone is buying at that time. Prices were getting bid up, and the cost of capital is very low. And
Hmm.
and as I had said to you, I really struggle with the numbers right now that we have as far as inflation and as far as all these different metrics we have, job growth, population. I'm just wary of some of these numbers. And the one that really stuck at me was the inflation. When they said inflation was transitory and they didn't do anything about it, then the
Hmm.
Fed was too late to the party. And then everyone had gotten this short-term bridge debt. And then, within 9 months, we had the highest number of rate hikes ever. And that
Hmm.
shocked the system. And now that's what we're working through right now. So we always got to look back to see what's going on right now. And I think what's going on right now is I think banks have realized that they'd rather work with a Joel or a Gino on the
Hmm.
property than take it back because they obviously do not want to operate real estate.
Right.
I think they were smart enough that they got enough money as far as a loan to value. They had enough equity in the properties to protect
Hmm.
themselves. It's just unfortunate the limited partners and the general partners equity is going to probably be wiped out. If there's any mezz debt, that might get wiped out. So I think
Yeah.
banks are okay, but it's worth this point right now where sellers are still stuck where they can't sell. Buyers are like, I am not overpaying anymore.
Hmm.
And on top of that, I've got a lot of my deals that are funded with people who have money in them and they can't get their money out of those deals. So I can't find money for new deals. So it's
Yeah.
like this weird phenomenon and put it on top of, depending on where you are in the market, if you're in certain cities, it may be more challenging than others because there may be a
Hmm.
lot of building that has gone on.
Yeah, yeah. So all those dynamics can certainly impact how things take place. Um, it is kind of strange as we look forward. There's been a lot of talk about rate hikes and everything else. Just off the top of your head, what do you think we're looking at from that standpoint?
Do
Neutral,
you
up,
think
down? I mean, or is it just I don't know, neutral, up, down?
I, you know,
Right.
I really can't answer that question because I don't know. But if I was betting, the whole world has a debt problem. I mean,
Mhm.
our debt, our economy, we've got a ton of debt, but at least we have some type of growth here. At
Yeah.
least we have people who are flowing capital back into this country, and
Mhm.
we've got this energy renaissance, and we've got this AI boom. So we can sort of grow our way out of it, but not really. But when you
Yeah.
look at the rest of the world, can the rest of the world deal with higher interest rates? I don't know, and I'm not really sure.
Mhm.
I don't think that when you look at what's going on right now, you have a lot of influencers out there and just people saying anything and trying to be provocative.
Mhm.
I mean, this gas hike was temporary. The war is going to be over in the next month or two. It just will. I had gas here in Florida go up to 4.60 a gallon. It's back down to 3.50 right now. And if you
Oh,
go to
really?
Bucky's, you're below $3 a gallon if you go to Bucky's. So go to Bucky's, everybody. But the point is, like, it was just that much fear going on. And what's beautiful about what's going on with the war, at least in my opinion, all of a sudden the world sees that why do we have 20% of the world's oil going through a 20-mile international waterway? Why don't we do something about it? And now you have Qatar, you have the Saudis, they're all building new pipelines to divert from that. So at least the longer term ramifications of this is going to be wonderful for the world, because we don't have to be held hostage by one country saying, well, we're going to hold you hostage and not allow you to go through. Okay. You have the waterway. We're going to figure out, we're going to build ways around. So for me, is bringing it back to the inflation point, I don't think inflation is going to go higher. You're going to see these prices drop. The economy is pretty much stagnant right now. So I don't see inflation from that perspective. I think they're going to have to use monetary funds or actually interest rates. The market rate cycle, interest rates are high. They're going to want to spur the economy. So what do you do when you want to spur the economy? You're going to drop interest rates. Yeah. So that's what I think is going to end up ultimately happening. I don't think rates are going to go much higher, but there are a lot wiser people than me saying they are. I just don't see it long term, because I don't really think we're in an inflationary era. Once you take out what happened to oil, that short-term spike, once that's gone, oil is going to go back down. You have Venezuela pumping oil. You have us pumping massive amounts of oil. You have all the other countries that are coming on board, countries leaving OPEC right now. Once they figure out that whole thing, prices are they're going to crash. Actually, we're going to have an oil glut. You watch in the next 12 months.
All right. Well, we'll see how it plays out.
How do you feel? What do you think about it?
Oh, that's a good question. It is a tempestuous situation, just simply because of the fact that, as you mentioned, inflation is a real thing. People's pocketbooks, if you're on a fixed income, and gas prices have increased, 30%, 40%, it's a real deal. But then again, you can't just slash interest rates, because that's not the key either, from that standpoint. Too much cheap money in the market. We've all lived through other cycles where that's been the case.
Yes.
Right? So we have to be careful with that. I think some slight adjustments might be necessary, but like these gas hikes, they come and they go, and eventually this will die down. So we'll see what happens. Plus, there's a lot of oil that can be produced right here domestically. So, we'll see how it plays out.
Joel, one thing I would say that is a little, I don't want to say troubling or concerning to me, is the credit card debt that Americans are carrying right now. So if rates do drop, we may see relief in that. I just don't understand how credit cards can charge 21%. I just, someone has to explain that racket to me, because if that's not usury, I don't know what is, but there is a lot of credit card debt right now going on in this country. That's the one thing that's worrying to me in the B and C space, because you put gas prices and gas, and then you put inflation, and you put that credit card debt on a person who's, like you said, on a fixed income or is on median income. That's very challenging. So rents, they ain't going nowhere. That's the crazy part. You don't need rent control. You just need a surplus of apartments being built. You need competition in the market. And you see what's happened in our market of Knoxville. Yeah. I mean, in our market over the last 12 months, rents are down almost 0.5%, whereas they were going crazy over the last couple of years. They're literally flat. And I think over the next 12 months, if anybody's listening to this, be very wary of whatever market you're in. You may not have any rent growth. You may have rent decreases because of the deliveries that are coming on that are not being absorbed by the market. So beware where you are, where you're living, whatever market you're in.
Yeah. That's very interesting to see how that might play out. And that's obviously market by market.
Yes.
But, what are you thinking now as regards, are you more a buyer or a seller in this particular market?
I was talking to my 23-year-old son the other day, and I told my son, Michael, I said, Michael, you can always buy real estate. You can't always sell real estate. And right now, if we go back into the 2009, 2010 area, you could have bought all the real estate you wanted back then. And it was hard to find debt there, but you could have bought it. It was very difficult to sell it. And that's what we're seeing right now. Right now, you should be looking to buy assets, but it's really hard to buy stuff at right prices. But right now, if you have an asset that you want to sell, it can be very challenging depending on the asset type. These older assets right now, they're getting hammered because there's a lot of capex in them. And why would you buy a property that's built in the 60s at a 5.5 or 6 cap? Well, you could buy a property built in the 90s with a very similar cap rate. That's the thing that I find that very disconcerting right now. I think C properties, they have cap rates got to go back into 8s and 9s to make them competitive. We've been buying a negative leverage for the last 3 or 4 years, and that has not worked out. So for us, we're always looking to buy. But if you're listening to this, what you need to do in real estate, if you're buying, you need to understand what your criteria to buy. What are you looking to buy in this market? It's changed over the last few years, and it will always change as the market cycle changes. So for us, we are always looking to buy assets. And if we sell, it's more of a tax consideration as well. You may want to sell, but if you've got cost segregation and if you've got tax benefits lined up in there, does it make sense to sell? You may have to stagger your sales out. That's what we're looking at right now.
Yeah. Good point. Let me do this just real quick because we kind of jumped into the meat and potatoes on this. Give us a little background as to yourself and what you've done so that at least our audience is like, okay, well, this guy sounds great, but who the heck is he? Why should I listen to him?
I am a meat and potatoes guy. I'm Italian, so Italians, we love to eat meat, potato. We'll eat anything, right? I grew up in the real estate. I grew up in the restaurant industry. My dad and my mom were both immigrants from Italy, and I opened up a restaurant eons ago. And it was great. Back in the 90s and the early 2000s, you could have a small business. You could make a great living. Things were different. They were less expensive. There was less to spend. There was less competition. There was, I don't want to say less consumerism, but I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have Wi-Fi. I didn't have student debt. There was more profitability in these small businesses. But as the Great Recession lengthened and you started getting into that, all of a sudden it becomes globalized. The internet starts creating a ton of competition. You're a small business owner with a small pizza shop. You've got 3 other pizza shops opening up around you. They're all delivering. And it's like, dude, why are you selling 2 pizzas for $12? I can't compete with that. Margins are shrinking. And I saw that. My parents, fortunately, Joel, for me, I had already invested in a couple of real estate deals. And I'm like, I need to do something different. I'm working harder and I'm making less. And that's how Jake and myself, we met. He was a pharmaceutical rep taking orders out of the restaurant, bringing them to doctors' offices. So we nicknamed ourselves the pizza guy and the drug rep. And we just started buying real estate. We bought multifamily in 2011. Everyone thought we were crazy. We moved down to Knoxville, Tennessee. That's where Jake moved to. I was still up in New York. And we started buying deals. We started buying small multifamilies. We ended up, over the last 15 years, we've acquired over 2,500 units, transacted. We currently own 1,900 units right now, probably $350 million in assets. We have no syndications. It's all our own equity. Me, Jake, another business partner, Mike, and some employees are in on some of the deals. For us, it's been very interesting. The whole idea of getting into the business and saying, I'm not going to get into single family homes and fix and flip. That was just a personal decision on my own because I'm like, I'm already flipping pizzas. I don't want to flip homes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want another job. I wanted to create some type of stable income where I could buy a property, let the thing cash flow, then maybe refi the money out and go buy another one and slowly do that. I remember, Joel, that Jake and I said, if we got 100 units, we would be the 2 happiest guys on the planet. But the weird thing is when you hit 100 units, you start figuring some things out and you're like, oh, okay, 100's not that bad. How do we get to 200? Then from 200 is how do you get to 500? Then 500 is how do you get to 1,000? And go on. It's just certain different inflection points. So I did start out in the restaurant space. Out of necessity, I ended up getting into the real estate space and, haven't looked back. I left the restaurant back in 2016 and I've been doing the real estate gigs full time since then.
Okay. All right. Well, sounds real good. Well, look, we're up against a brief 20-second commercial break. We'll take that right quick, and we'll be right back here on the Mornings with Joel CRE podcast. We'll see you in a second.
Step into the future with EcoCrypt, a platform unifying decentralized finance with real-world utility, where value flows freely. From gaming achievements to real-world assets, Everything can be tokenized, fractional, and accessible in one trusted ecosystem. For gamers, investors, and global communities, EcoCrypt is breaking down barriers and democratizing finance. Join the revolution. Visit ecocryptusa.com today. Step into the future.
Okay, all right, good. Welcome back to the Mornings with Joel series podcast. We're here with Gino. Gino, thank you for that recap on your start in the business and everything else. Just for our audience, how did you get that first deal done? I think we covered that last time. I'm not sure, but everybody wants to know, how do we do that? And then what I want to do is talk a little bit about single family versus multifamily, which is what you were starting to allude to.
Excellent.
So how'd you get started in doing your first deal?
I think when everyone gets into their first deal, there needs to be a certain amount of pain or anxiety or some type of distress in your life, or else you won't get off the couch and shut off Netflix. I had at the time I had 5 children. I was working at the restaurant. I was on the proverbial hamster wheel. One week we did well. The next week it snowed and I didn't get paid and it sucked. And I just got really pissed off, Joel. I'm like, I'm blaming Bush. I'm blaming Obama. I'm blaming the economy. But there's guys like Joel out there that are crushing it. Like, what's the difference? Like, what am I doing wrong? I read T. Harv Eker's book, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And to me, that changed everything. At first, I really didn't like the messaging because, I like to be the victim. It feels good to be the victim. It feels good to blame other people because then you don't need to take responsibility.
Right. Lay on the couch.
Yeah. Sit back, enjoy yourself, not have to worry about anything. But I saw in that analogy that he made, your fruits are your roots. I'm like, man, my roots are pretty shallow and I don't have any fruits showing right now. And that's no one's mistake or that's no one's excuse other than myself. I am the one who has led myself to this point in time. All the actions and everything that I've taken have brought me to this point. And the marketplace is not rewarding me. And that's when I decided, okay, I need to learn this real estate thing. I had lost money in a couple of deals prior. So what I ended up doing was connecting with a couple of different mentors, joining mentorship groups back then and back in '08. And it took me a couple of years to really learn the business. And fortunately, people say, well, you got lucky meeting Jake. I did get lucky meeting Jake. He got lucky meeting me, but I was sort of prepared. It's not like we just partnered up and I'm like, hey, let's partner up. I sort of knew the business at that time. And in 2011, when he decided to move to Knoxville, we're like, okay, let's start investing in this market. This is a good market, but it was hard because it's Stenziano in Barbaro in East Tennessee in 2011. I'm just saying we weren't very welcome back then. That's just the reality. So we start looking at deals and it took us 18 months to find that first deal. Jake, in the meanwhile, while we're looking for that first deal, his fiance moves down to Tennessee. They actually end up buying a house. And I'm like, bro, you're killing me. Like, I'm not going to quit. I need to find something different. Like, I can't keep doing this restaurant gig. I need some side income. Everyone's telling me with all these kids that I need to pay for college, that I need to pay for my retirement. I've got weddings coming. It's not, this one income is not going to help me. So I was so motivated. I had such a desire to do it that obviously there's fear, there's shame, there's scarcity, there's anxiety about that first deal. But I'm like, what's the worst thing that can happen? We do our first deal together and we lose money. I've already lost money before. What's another loss, right? That was the reality. But that 18 months was all preparation. It was all about how do you analyze the market? How do you reach out to brokers? And thankfully for us, once again, I think God sent us Rick Gentry, broker in Tennessee. We connected with him. He liked our energy. He liked us. We were young. I think he thought us as almost a mentor-mentee role. He showed us his first deal. It was 25 units. It was a weekly renter. It had a lot, as you would say in this business, a lot of hair on it. That was an understatement. But the numbers worked, and it was very profitable. And there was a lot of value add potential onto the deal. So we ended up closing that very first deal after 18 months. It had a seller financing component on it.
Okay.
But the key to that was the broker relationship and then understanding that, hey, we're buying this asset at a really good basis and we're already cash flowing day one on this property. And if we turn it over to yearly rentals, if we actually fix this property up, if we cut the expenses and we go from the mom and pop model to, hey, more of a real business plan.
Right.
things will get really good. And that's what ended up happening. And the great part about it, once again, luck struck. 3 months later, Rick brings us another deal. And that was the crazy part. So if you're out there, you're saying, I'm not really sure if I want to look at deals. You always have to be looking at deals. You always have to be on top of mind with these brokers. You always have to be out there putting feelers. And I know it's hard because I'm struggling with it right now. Because when I call a broker, it's like, hey, you got anything? It's very hard, but you still have to make sure that you reach out. Because if a deal comes and you talked to them a week ago, they're going to send you that deal. And that's why for us, finding Rick, and then our first 5 or 6 deals were all done through that same broker. So that was the amazing part for us.
Yeah, yeah. So you built those relationships. And that could be a little tricky, as you said initially, because a broker, they don't want to waste their time if the deal's not going to close. And if they're nervous about you being able to execute, they're not going to return your phone call. So like you said, it was that comfort that was built over time, 18 months really, in order to get them to where they're comfortable. And I guess, was your mentor groups kind of helping you with that as well? Or did you guys just save the money? Was it all seller equity? I mean, how did that all come together?
For me, and for anybody listening to this, I know you're thinking to yourself, well, I've never done a deal before.
Right.
I leveraged everything that I had. I had gone up into Rochester, New York before I met Jake, and I had bought a couple of duplexes up there. They were very inexpensive at the time, 60 grand for a duplex. But that showed a broker that I was already in the business.
Sure.
I had a restaurant. That was a small business, right? I had credibility from that perspective. Jake was a professional. He really presented himself really well. And the mentorship groups, they really taught us how to talk to brokers. Because if you go to, I remember having a credibility book, creating like a 12-page business plan and giving it to these brokers back then. And the vast majority of them were like, I've never seen this before. We gave it to our bankers as well. It was just listing the properties we had. It was our business plan that we had. It was the case studies that we had on our previous properties. And it's like, you need to be prepared. You need to learn the language and the lingo that brokers are going to speak. That's why you need to sort of educate yourself and join these mentorship groups, because they will teach you how to talk to brokers. And it's like, wow, what a difference. Once Stenziano and Barbaro started talking the lingo of brokers, and to your question specifically, that very first deal, it was a $600,000 deal, 25 units. 10% was seller financed, 10% was brought by us as equity, and 80% was from the bank. Now, the bank that we used already had the loan on the property, so they already knew the property was performing, right? And I was like, and the sellers, they liked that 10% note because they were basically getting income every single month, and they were deferring their capital gains. And the irony is, we just paid off that loan 3 months ago. So we took out that loan in 2013, in February of 2013. They kept extending it out. So they were getting paid $320 a month. And for us, it was great. I mean, like that loan ended up, I think that loan ended up at $39,000. That's what the loan balance was. We just ended up paying it off. But that's what happens when you don't have money. You get really creative. You can use the seller financing. You can start raising capital for and doing syndications. You can start partnering up with other syndicators and getting on their team. There's no reason why money should be holding you back. The thing that held me back more than anything was 2 things: was the mindset, and was just the experience of not knowing what the business was about. Those 2 things will stop you much quicker than money will. The lack of it will, actually.
Yeah. I'm actually glad you brought that up, because it really is about the mindset, and understanding it. But to your point, you need to learn the lingo, because if you're talking to folks and they see that you don't know what you're talking about, or you don't know what terms mean, you're going to be in trouble. It's going to be a short conversation. So that's a very powerful point.
I'll give you a quick example. You talk to a broker, very simple conversation with a broker. Hey, Joel, my name is Gino. Listen, I'm in East Tennessee, own 1,900 units. We're looking, within 2 hours in Knoxville, what our buy box is, what we're really looking to buy is anything with median incomes of over $50,000. We like that type of resident base. We love 2-bed, 1.5-bath townhomes. That's our vintage. That's what we really love. Anything 80s or newer, we really like that in this part of the market cycle. We like anything between 20 units and 200 units. If they have washer dryer hookups, that would be great as well. We like brick. Flat roofs, not so much, but we can deal with them. Now, when you talk to a broker like that, I mean, the conversation is completely different. They're like, oh, Now they know you're serious, number one. Now they know what you're looking for, number two. And they're like, okay, I can work with this type of buyer because he knows exactly. Now, that's not to say that he's not going to show us in 1970s. I'll be completely honest with them and say the reason why we're not looking at these older assets is they're just overpriced. We don't mind buying them, but we can't pay a 5 or 6 cap going in on a T3. We can't do that. But if you want to show it to us, I'd love to see them. But this is what our sweet spot is. And once you see that and once you see them, it's like, oh, wow. That brings the credibility. You will never be asked for a proof of funds. And then what you can say is, I've got equity partners, I've got business partners, we can raise the capital. Don't worry about that. I've never, ever been asked for proof of funds in our multifamily deals. Never.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point, Gino. And I'm glad you brought that up, because the biggest thing, as you mentioned, is people being slow to actually execute. And those are the reasons. So you addressed them spot on. So very, very good point there. I want to mention something also that is often overlooked, and that's the seller's mindset. Oftentimes a buyer is thinking, well, he's not going to take me serious. He's not going to this. He's not going to that. But a lot of these mom and pop owners, they're desperate to get out of these properties because they want to move on with their life. And oftentimes the children don't want to have anything to do with the properties. So have you run across situations like that?
We have. And I think anybody listening to this, they would be best served by picking up Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference. It's a negotiation book. I've got book notes on it. If you want to reach out to me, my email address is gino@jakeandgino.com. It is a phenomenal book, not only about negotiation, but just the mindset of the other side. Because when you're negotiating with a terrorist or you're negotiating with a mom and pop, it's basically the same kind of mindset. The terrorist doesn't want to, the hostage king, they don't want to kill they want money for it. And the mom and pop, people think the mom and pops, they want the highest price. It's interesting because what you need to do as a person who's buying real estate, you need to extract yourself from the situation. You need to take a look at it from I guess high above. And you need to really listen to the seller as to what they're saying. Some sellers may want max price, fine. Some sellers may want ease of close. Some sellers may not want to tip off their employees or their residents, so they want to keep it nice and quiet. Some sellers have been burned a couple times. We had a seller who sold a property to his brother. He had to take it back 6 months later. So he's like, I don't want that to go through. Jake and Gino, can you close in this deal? Yes, we've actually bid below certain prices on other deals because the buyers weren't as qualified as we were. So you really need to sit down and see what that seller's problem is and how do you solve that problem. And I think most of the business does not do that because it's hard, because you're filling your mind with certain ideas of what you want, but it's not what you want. It's really what they want. And it's really ask questions and be quiet. And why are you selling the property? How long have you owned it? When's your debt coming due? If you are you buying another deal? Are you doing a 1031? They may be motivated because all of a sudden they're buying something else and they need to sell this property. Like, you don't know if you don't know what the problem is, there's no way for you to actually make a bid on the property. So it's very important as a buyer to get rid of all your cognitive biases, which is really, really difficult. I'm Italian. I've got a lot of cognitive biases. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to be the first one to say, but if you could do that, and you can listen like intentively, intuitively, and really find out what they want. What's the pain point? Because our very first property that we bought, Jake and myself, they just wanted to sell the property. They had it on the market for 3 years. They were old. They had health issues. They wanted to retire. We got it for a really good price. We got actually a credit at closing because we didn't have team members, so we had to replace some roofs. We let them replace the roofs for us. They gave us seller financing because they didn't want all that capital. They didn't need it. And it was, for us, godsend. So if you're out there and you're looking to start putting deals on multifamily, you need to really, if you can't speak to the sellers, you need to speak to the sellers' brokers and get as much information as you possibly can and find out what the problem they have.
Yeah. And that's really the key, is becoming a problem solver, as opposed to just trying to win a negotiation, because if you solve their problem, everything else will fall in line. So very, very good point on that. Let me ask you this also. We touched on the idea of why multifamily as opposed to single family. A lot of people think that it's easier, and they say, well, I could just buy this home. I already own a home, so I know what it's like to own a home, and they think they can buy a single family home. What are the downsides to that as opposed to just jumping off into multifamily?
Depending on the market, Joel, some single family home rentals may make sense. You may be able to buy them at a price point where they cash flow. The
Mm-hmm.
problem that I have with single family homes, and I own a couple myself in this market of Florida where I live,
Yeah.
they're not a cash flow play. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. They're an equity play. So
Yeah.
if you're going to say to me, I'm going to buy one home a year for the next 5 years, and within the next 10 years, I'm going to pay down these mortgages. So 10 years from now, I have these 10 homes free and clear, and I've got a
Mhm.
ton of equity in these homes, and I can sell these homes. You could sell them on seller finance notes, and that's how
Yeah.
you make your mailbox money. There's so many different ways to make money in real estate, but you need
Sure.
to understand that it's very difficult to buy single family homes and to scale them because you're buying a 2,200 square foot house on A Street, and then all of a sudden on C Street, you have an 1,800 square foot two bedroom. They're different. They're different homes, different locations. You got to
Mhm.
cut their grasses. They have different HVAC units in. They have different fixtures in. Whereas if
Mhm.
you're buying a 25 unit multifamily apartment complex, those units are all the same. The hot water heaters are in the closet. The
Yep.
HVAC's outside. They all have one roof. There's one
Mhm.
place to go collect all the rents. That's why for me, when I started, I'm like, I want to start with this because we can handle this. We don't have to go to 25 different locations. We don't have 25 different property taxes. We don't have 25 different insurance bills. It's
Mhm.
so much simpler. The problem is, I think people hold themselves back because of their beliefs, because of their
Yeah.
faulty beliefs, because they say that those rich guys are
Mhm.
getting into multifamily. We need to stay in the single family space. And if you believe that, that's your reality. You're going to act on that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I would
Mhm.
rather you get into the business, do a couple single family homes, and then go, man, that guy Gino's right. I've done these. Let me get into multifamily. That's wonderful. That's a great way because at least when you talk to a broker, you can go to the broker and go, hey, Joel, I've got a couple single family homes. I love them. They're great. But what my goal ultimately is to build a cash flowing business here. And that's why I'm getting to multifamily. Now you've got a story for the broker. Don't
Right.
hold back and go, oh, you know what? Gino said multifamily is the best thing. So I need to go at it today. But if your belief is I can't do it because I need a ton of money, I'd rather you get into the single family space, start that, make some mistakes because making a mistake on one single family home is a lot better than making a mistake on a 50 unit apartment complex that you've never done before. You can pivot, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure you've made those mistakes too. We've made those mistakes too. So
Yeah.
it's better to start. If
Mhm.
you think you can't get into multifamily right away, at least start with some single family homes. But then ultimately, what is your goal? What are you trying to
Yeah.
accomplish? If it's an equity play, single family homes do pretty well over the long term. But if
Mhm.
you want to build a business that you can cash flow, sell these assets, flip them, take the equity out, and grow the portfolio, to me, multifamily is far superior for doing that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a good point. I wanted to mention two things that to highlight as it relates to that. Number one is cash flow is extremely important.
Hmm.
You can get sucked with a lot of single family properties with no cash flow.
None.
It could be really really painful from that standpoint. And I think back to one of my buddies who always uses the term is the juice worth the squeeze. And you think about it, right? Right? You got these single family homes and you're squeezing and working and working and working and working, and you're just not getting the cash flow. You might get the appreciation. There's a lot of
Might.
things associated with that. Yeah. The other thing that we didn't even talk about related to this is also as you scale the issue of recourse, right? Every
Yes.
single family home is going to have recourse, right? As you get into
Yes.
bigger deals, there is no recourse. Do you want to explain recourse for our audience in case they don't
Yes.
understand?
Yeah, recourse debt is basically debt that you are personally guaranteeing.
Right.
Now, I don't want you to stop. I don't want that to stop you from getting into the business because that's just the reality. Jake and I
Yeah.
still have a lot of deals on recourse. They're basically community banks,
Hmm.
credit unions. They go on your personal balance sheet. And that's okay. At a certain point,
Especially
as
getting
you
started.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
As you grow
Yeah.
your portfolio, you're going to get that recourse debt. You're going to refinance it and go to an agency, whether it's a Fannie, whether it's a
Hmm.
Freddie, maybe a
Hmm.
CMBS lender, and it's going to become a non-recourse. It's going to
Right.
come off of your personal balance sheet, and that's a cool thing. Like you're going to max out that personal that recourse debt at a certain point, and that's what ends up happening. And it's like, oh wow, that's why I can't scale. But for us, on the non-recourse side, it's great. We've got a ton of debt that's non-recourse. Now, obviously, there are carve-outs. If Jake and I are fraudulent or negligent, they can obviously come after you. But it's a great point to make. I don't want anyone to stop and say, I'm not getting into real estate because it's too risky because of recourse debt. For instance, if you buy a property and the debt on the property is 400,000, and all of a sudden the property loses value and you can only recap 350, you're guaranteeing the $50,000 loss. It's not like you're going to lose the entire property. You're only guaranteeing the loan amount. So that's something that you have to take in consideration. Is the juice worth the squeeze? To me, absolutely. I'm going to squeeze that lemon because it's worth getting into real estate to take that type of risk. That risk is palatable to me in the beginning to get in. I'm not going to make that excuse of not using recourse debt to start my portfolio.
Yeah, but it gives you the incentive to scale.
Yes.
From that standpoint, yeah.
Great
so that
point.
You can pull away from all that recourse debt.
Yes.
At some point. But to your point, if you're getting started, don't expect to do a 25-unit building and have no recourse. It might happen, but it's going to be rare. So, just expect that. Let's do this. We're up against another commercial break. We will be back in about 20 seconds here on the Mornings with Joel CRE podcast. We'll be right back.
How do you build a company that
Impact Air 99. We asked real people, try the Impact Air 99.
Breathable, light, but protective.
Feels very comfortable wearing it. It looks cooler.
It's almost surprising how much air you can get in.
Engineered with 6 layers of nanoscreen technology that blocks over 99% of viruses and bacteria while allowing you to breathe freely and speak clearly.
My glasses are not fogging up.
I could wear this all day.
The Impact Air 99. We asked real people, try the Impact Air 99.
Breathable, light, but protective.
Feels very comfortable wearing it. It looks cooler.
It's almost surprising.
We're back. Okay, all right. Hey guys, back here on the Mornings with Joel, on the Mornings with Joel series podcast with Gino I always pronounce your name wrong. I apologize. Give it to me again.
Barbaro.
There you go. All right. Apologize, Gino. I'll get it right eventually. My mistake. I got to just get the accents in the right place. I need to spend more time in Italy, and then I'll get it down right.
If you spend more time in Italy, you may not come back, my friend. I'm just saying. Just be careful.
I'm gonna tell you, one of my favorite places on earth is that Amalfi Coast, man. It is just. It doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, it's captivating.
You got limes and lemons the size of your hand, and it's just unbelievable. Really good place, man. So anyway, I digress. But, and I love Venice too. Let me mention that. That's one of my favorite cities on earth. I love that place. So
that place is incredible. Do you know how they built it? I mean, I don't know how back in the day, we can't build something today. They literally built a city on a swamp, and they literally drove wood pylons into the ground.
Together, and
and it's still built that way. And we can't have a refrigerator last more than 3 years, and yet they built a city in a swamp with all the bugs and all the heat and everything, and that place is still place is captivating. If anybody hasn't been there, bucket list: Venice, Florence, Rome, Amalfi. It will be an unbelievable and unforgettable trip.
Absolutely. That had nothing to do with commercial real estate, but we figured it's worth sharing.
Well, I thought, Joel, it's perfect. The work-life balance. That's what you wanted to sort of pivot your way into.
There you go. So let's do that. So, Gino, as you mentioned, you've had some success over the years, and as well as I do, as you get older, you have to you quickly realize that your time is much more valuable than money, right? And so how do you balance that out? I was reading, or actually I had my sons reading a book about, it was called 212. And what it talks about is how 1 little degree of energy is the difference between water being hot and turning into steam the way you can power a locomotive, right? I thought that was a very good analogy.
Yes.
But when you're hustling like that, it's one thing to be doing that at 20, is another to be doing it at 40, 50, 60 years of age. So, what have you found to kind of keep that life work balance as you go forward and enjoy, this level of success?
Well, the irony is when I was working at the restaurant, I had less work-life balance than I do now, and I'm making 10 times as much money as I did back then. I was always fortunate that I had the small business and I had my family, my kids working there. They'd come for lunch. They'd come and work, occasionally there. So that was sort of the work-life balance. But I just said to myself, it wasn't aligning with my values because I was working on the weekends, I was working on the holidays. That was the other thing that I probably didn't mention. That's
Yeah.
what really pushed me out more than anything. I'm like, bro, this does not align. When you're younger and you can skip those things, but as you get older, all of a sudden your job doesn't feel right. And that's what you have to really realize. And if you're listening to this, that's one of the barometers. That's what pushed me into real estate because my business was funding my lifestyle. I wanted my lifestyle sort of to help me fund my business, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want my business just and having to work and work and work and being stuck in one place. That's what was happening with my physical location of the restaurant. So I'm like, I like the real estate thing. And what I ended up doing was we ended up creating the Jake and Gino community. And that for me was like the like I said, work-life balance where the kids were part of it as well. I'm like, okay, let's start working together. So when I bring work home, you're part of the work. Workshops, the events we go to, all the trainings we have, they were inundated. They were there. We had all these big seminars, they would come. And now what we've done now is we've created this Barbaro 360 company with the family. And it's really centered around working with families, working with entrepreneurial families. But I'm actually literally created it with a couple of my older kids because I want them to learn how to become entrepreneurs, how to build a business. And the best way to do it is to do that with them. So that's how I found the work-life balance. Listen, when you're younger, you may have to grind. There may be certain seasons in your life where it's hard, but I want to challenge you with this question. I hear a lot of entrepreneurs say, I'm doing this for my kids. I'm working hard. I'm making all this money for my kids. Have you ever stopped and asked your kids if that's what they want? Joel, most of us have not stopped because unconsciously we may be doing it for ourselves, which is not a bad thing. Yeah. Just realize, don't blame or put all the onus on your kids. You're doing it for your family. It's okay to do it for yourself. Just be clear on that. Ask your kids what they want. And if you're fortunate and you're blessed and you do have a business and you can share that with your children, don't be so punitive with them. Don't force it on them and don't shove it down their throats. Let them be part of it in a cool way. Let them gravitate to what they like. If you have property management, a couple of the kids may like to go out and cut grass. A couple of the kids may go out and like to fix the apartments. A couple of them might like to do bookkeeping. A couple of them might like to go out and just be in the office or go out and collect rents. Just find out what their genius is and introduce them to the business. Let them be part of the business. And don't be afraid to talk about money with your children. Because if you don't, when they become adults, they're going to be the type of person that either avoids money or is afraid of money. So that's why that work-life balance as an entrepreneur is important. Understanding that you may think you're doing it for them, but are you doing it just for yourself? Be transparent with them. And if you have the business and you can include them in the business, that's where part of the work-life balance can come into play.
Yeah, no, that's very important. It kind of reminds me of a lot of the folks in the South where it was like, well, I want this big piece of property and I want my kids in the houses behind me and we'll all be kind of on this compound, right? Yes. And then the kids grow up and they're like, I don't want to live where I grew up, right? I want to go to California or whatever, Yeah, so it's you got to have that mindset. What do they really want, and then try to incorporate them in it, which I think is interesting. And it's certainly not a bad business to be in, So that's where it's at. But the idea of learning money is extremely important because so many kids, they don't teach this stuff in school, especially the practical application of money. So having kids really understand that and how to apply it and how to make it grow is extremely important. I have my kids read The Richest Man in Babylon early on. They understand that if you view money like children, that you don't just kill off, you don't just waste it, but you have to protect it and make sure that it grows to a healthy, adulthood. It becomes very important, and they got value out of that. So really interesting. Talking about books, I understand you just wrote a book that's kind of related to this. Is that what I'm looking at on the bookshelf there, that green book, or something else?
Yes, I wrote a book called Happy Money, Happy Family, Happy Legacy, and I interviewed a gentleman named Ken Honda. He is the original Happy Money author. He wrote it back in 2001. He sold over 8 million copies. And on the podcast, he said, Gino, I want you to write, in his Japanese accent, Happy Money, Happy Property, Happy Family. And I'm like, I like that, but I don't want to write another real estate book. I want to write a book that encompasses, the vision of what happy money is to somebody, with how do you incorporate that into a happy family, and then ultimately the legacy piece, where I realized that legacy is not something that you leave behind; it's something that you activate today. So
Yeah.
as you start working today in your business, you talk about work-life balance, you talk about talking about money. These are all things that you're instilling in your children today. That's part of your legacy. You're not leaving that behind. You're activating it today, and it's becoming part of them. So that's what inspired me to write the book. And that's what really the book is all about, is what's this notion of what is happy money? Happy, energetic, positive. It's not the old Gino going to his W-2 self-employed job on the rat race, on the hamster wheel. That's unhappy money. That's unfulfilling money. The happy money is the Gino today, where I'm writing books. I'm starting a company with my kids. I'm investing in real estate. There's this positive flow of energy. I'm just enjoying what I'm doing. I want people to really be locked into that and to understand what their happy money looks like. And then obviously incorporating that and trying to build a happy family around the notion of money, what money is. Money doesn't corrupt a person, I think. I think it reveals them. Money is just a tool. The more money you make, the more impact you can create. All of these things I'm trying to teach my children, for them to have a positive view of what money is. It's just a tool. That's really what it is. And I want them to learn how to use that tool and how to wield that tool. And if you can do that in the space of the family, all of a sudden the family can start growing. And that's how you incorporate your values and your teachings and the capital that you have, so you can perpetuate that and pass that on to the next generation.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really important. And I thank you for sharing that, incorporate it now, as opposed to thinking you're just going to give it to your kids in a bow at some point down the road when you're on your deathbed. Here you go.
Yeah.
That's not it. Incorporate them from day one, and get them involved, and let them grow as well, and help them grow, because they'll need help to start off. And I think you, just like myself, it's the old saying, if we knew now what we knew 30, 40 years ago, it'll be a totally different story. Well, your kids are 30, 40 years ago, right? So give them that information now, let them grow. So
yes,
yeah, it's a powerful thing.
Joel, in the part of the legacy, I've been doing a lot of research, and I've been building my trusts and my estate planning. I think what you just said is important, because most people, when we think about legacy, what we focus on is just the money part, the financial part. And that's very important.
Yeah.
And as you create more wealth, the one biggest fear that us as entrepreneurs have is we don't want our children to be spoiled or to be entitled. The other two components of legacy that people don't focus on, or if they do, they don't really understand it, is the human component and the intellectual component. I do a podcast with my son. It's called the Happy Money Podcast. He's 23 years old. That's an intellectual component. We're teaching on that podcast so that one day my grandchildren will be watching their dad and their grandfather talking about money. That is a cool legacy piece. All the books that we write, all the intellectual property that we've created, the Barbaro 360 company, that's part of the intellectual capital. Now, the human capital is also really cool, because each one of your children is going to have their unique genius. I have one child who is just brilliant. She's amazing at school. She's going to become a scholar. I have another child who's an artist, incredible with pottery, and she just got the gift and the knack. She loves to produce films. I've got another child who loves to be on the farm. She is amazing with animals. My son is more into business, and he's a musician. I want all of that to flourish within the family. I want that human, because that human capital and that intellectual capital, when you put it together and you pass that on to the next generation, all the values are there, and all of what your core values and your mission statement will be passed on. And the stronger the human intellectual capital is, the financial capital can withhold that and can grow that. Whereas, okay, we've got money. What are we using this money for? Hey, let's go out and let's buy a farm, or hey, let's go out and let's invest it in something else. Whereas we're focusing and investing it within the family, and the family all knows what the values are of the family. The family all knows how they've made money, and how do you continue to perpetuate that money.
Yeah, yeah. But that's putting the work in and staying connected to your kids.
Well, I think that's the most important thing. I think, why are we having kids? I mean, my children, we homeschool the kids, that they've been around. It's been a big sacrifice, but the sacrifice is well worth it long term, because that's what we want as family members. I want my children to see me as a role model. I would love for my daughters to marry someone like me. I'm hoping, right? Someone that's going to protect them, provide for them, love them, care for them, take a bullet for them, go out and work for them. I want them to marry somebody like that, and I need to be the role model. And I wanted to be connected with my family. Why did I have 6 children? Am I just going to have them and let them go off? This whole idea of individualism with the family is pretty crazy. It really isn't that way in a lot of other societies. It's more, I don't want to call it collectivism within the family, but the family unit is so important. And that's why we're having problems with society, with what's going on, because they don't have role models. They don't feel loved. They don't feel heard, kids. Yeah. And when they don't feel that way, and they don't have that structure and that foundation, that's when problems come about. But if your kids know that you love them, the kids know that you hear them, your kids know that you're on their side, long term, they're going to have healthier relationships. And long term, they're going to figure out the money component and all that other stuff.
Yeah, yeah. No, very, very important. Boy, that's a whole nother podcast in itself.
It is.
Yeah, seriously. But take away from this, everybody listening, be in your kids' lives. I mean, don't just have kids and then run off and try to just have some more. I mean, you're not a farmer spreading seed. I mean, just, take care of your family, be there and nourish them so that they can, just be of value to society. So
there's two things that I did wrong. I need to share this real quick because it's important. There's 2 things that I did wrong as a parent that I wish I had done better. The first one was to apologize to my children. Being a stubborn Italian guy, I was wrong a lot. And as they were younger, I should have said sorry a lot sooner. It would have gone a longer way, but my ego, my pride got in the way. And the second thing is, don't always be so quick to tell your children, especially your children who are teenagers, what to do. Sometimes they need to figure it out on their own. Yeah. And sometimes you just need to listen. Sometimes they just want to talk and want to be heard instead of telling them all the time what to do and to be a disciplinarian all the time. Right. I think I needed to lay back a lot instead of saying, hey, you need to read this Richest Man in Babylon book. Maybe that wasn't the right time. I mean, sometimes children, we're so conditioned to tell them what to do because we're the parent and we're the authority figure. Right. Just pull back sometimes and just say, hey, what do you need from me now? Like, do you need me to help you with something or you need me here just to listen? And those are 2 things I wish I had caught on sooner.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I appreciate you sharing that because oftentimes life experience will then have your kids say, hey, you know what? I understand now why Dad wanted me to read this book. Yes. Or do X, Y, Z. And even myself, I mean, me and my father, he was always in the household, both my parents, everything was fine. But naturally, as a teenager, you're bumping heads on things. I couldn't understand certain things. But then when I got older, I understood him a lot better and I appreciated him a lot more.
Yes. So,
great
point.
It happens. It happens. So you got to do that. Well, Gina, this has been a great show. Obviously we know each other. I didn't know where we were going to go with today's show, but it turned out great and we covered a lot of ground here. Anything you would like to leave with as we wrap up for today?
I just want to thank you for having me on again. I love talking about real estate. And for anybody out there, the real estate market ebbs and flows. The hardest thing about real estate is sometimes you just get bored. But you can always either be sourcing for deals or you can be sourcing for capital. Or you could be building your brand. Those are the 3 things that you should always be doing. So if you're not finding deals out there right now, don't be discouraged. You're not the only one. Continue to talk to investors. Continue to get better at your messaging. Become better communicator. Learn some skills right now if there's some downtime. And just think of yourself as that unique brand. Work on that right now if you're not finding deal flow.
Yeah, that's a good point. Appreciate you sharing that. And don't get desperate. Identify your buy box. And you can make a lot of mistakes when you get desperate looking at what everybody else is doing.
Yes, I agree. Great point again.
Yeah. So, well, Gino, I greatly appreciate it as always. Look forward to catching up with you in person someday soon. I'm sure we'll get together. Matter of fact, I missed the last event down in Florida, but I'll get down there and we'll make it happen. Yeah, absolutely. So, appreciate it as always. Definitely keep in touch, and we'll be seeing each other soon.
Thanks, Joel.
All right, appreciate it. And to all of you, thanks for being with us again here on the Mornings with Joel CRE podcast. Look forward to seeing you with us next week. Have a great afternoon.
Are you ready to level up in commercial real estate? Join us on Mornings with Joel CRE podcast, where we bring you exclusive interviews with top deal makers, investors, and industry leaders. Sponsors reach a high-value audience of real estate professionals. Guests share your expertise and grow your influence. Don't miss out. Book your spot today. Are you
Gino Barbaro returns to Mornings with Joel CRE podcast for an insightful conversation on real estate, entrepreneurship, family, and legacy. As co-founder of Jake and Gino and founder of Barbaro 360, Gino has helped thousands of investors navigate the multifamily space while building a portfolio spanning thousands of apartment units. In this follow-up interview, we go beyond real estate to discuss the lessons learned from building businesses, raising a family, creating generational wealth, and leading with purpose. We also explore today's multifamily market, emerging opportunities for investors, and why success is about more than just financial returns. Don't miss this powerful conversation with one of the most respected voices in multifamily investing and personal development. Gino Barbaro.
Are you ready to level up in commercial real estate? Join us on Mornings with Joel CRE podcast, where we bring you exclusive interviews with top deal makers, investors, and industry leaders. Sponsors reach a high-value audience of real estate professionals. Guests share your expertise and grow your influence. Don't miss out. Book your spot today.